3, 2, 1. Eleni Dracakis.
ZAR.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Hey! I'm looking forward to this.
What are we going to talk about today?
Whatever you want to talk about.
Awesome.
Yeah. Why don't we start with a little bit about yourself in terms of what you do for work and psychology.
Sounds good. So I work in a similar space to you, except instead of working on the body, I suppose you could say that I work on the mind.
Okay.
And I also work in the space of kind of high performance mind and performance, right? So helping my customers go from good to great, whether that be kind of individuals that come and approach me or in a more corporate organizational setting. So I brand myself as a business psychologist, although officially I'm called an endorsed and registered organizational psychologist.
Okay. Endorsed and registered organizational psychologist.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. So instead of going down the clinical or counseling route or, the traditional route that most people know of as psychologists, I went down this other specialization called kind of corporate or high performance organizational psychology. So yeah, it's really fun. I really like it, and kind of fast forward about a decade, and yeah, I've been enjoying it.
Amazing. Yeah, I don't meet many business psychologists because I'm I guess my work in the past has been clinical.
Yes.
So I've come across clinical psychologists, and we'll often share GPMPs or Medicare referrals and help manage patients' chronic disease together.
Yes, I'm a very unique type of psychologist that tends to work in the non-health space, non-medical space. So bringing psychology to kind of more business or corporate settings. So yeah, it's same principles, but kind of different application and kind of different customer base. So I do actually really enjoy that, actually, kind of being the intersect between kind of, the health and psychology side of things, but actually being able to bring that to a change in business performance and profitability, and being able to show that direct link between actually mastering your mind and high performance. And we don't just do it because it's a nice to have, we do it because it actually leads to better profitability and business outcomes. So for business owners like yourself, they usually really get excited when they hear that, well, if I do something a bit different in terms of my own psychology and the culture of my business, that I can actually increase my bottom line performance, as well as kind of have a happy and engaged workforce in terms of my employee or contractor base, and that will flow on naturally to a better kind of customer experience, say within your gym. So if you as a business owner focus on keeping your people happy and engaged and giving them what they want, that they will automatically do the same thing for all of your gym members here. And it'll be one big happy ZAR Athletica.
Amazing how that works.
Yeah. How does it work? So what do you do in that space? What's your ethos?
And my ethos in terms of what do you mean?
So why are you here at ZAR? Why did you create ZAR? And what's ZAR for when it comes to, yourself, the people that you work with here, and us as gym members?
That's a really good question. The reason ZAR exists is because I detected a problem when I was practicing as a private EP in the community. For a very long time, I worked in commercial gyms, and at the same time, I worked with doctors and other specialists. And the patients and clients that I was working with, we'd have a very successful journey because they were either referred by a GP or referred by their specialist or referred by another health professional. And it was my job to help them rehab or recover from their injuries. And we would start the exercise physiology journey in a one-on-one setting. And very quickly, I realized that there was a problem with, I was meeting members of our community when it was a little bit, I hate saying this, but it was too late.
Yeah.
The chronic pain has already set in. The chronic disease is already there. And I don't believe that it's ever too late to start exercising. But the problem was a lot of this stuff could have been prevented by better exercise advice earlier on. So the old training smarter, not always harder and flogging yourself. Or in some cases, training at all.
Yes,
with
understand.
chronic disease prevention and management. So I found that there was a point where I would help my patients recover from their injuries, and then it would come to a point of, oh, now I'm going back to my commercial gym, or I'm going back to doing whatever I was doing before, and then the cycle would continue. They would sometimes hurt themselves again, or they would sometimes not follow through with their rehab to the fullest, and then we would meet again and then rebuild again. So the problem was, it was frustrating, and it was very limiting. And say you and I were working together for managing some injuries, it would be, after a while, schedules become a clash, and we can only really work together maybe once a week if we're lucky, maybe twice per week. Whereas I found if I had access to help my clients and patients more, I'd get a lot more results.
I hear you.
Yeah.
You make me think quite a bit about clinical psychology and the similarities, right? So if someone's experiencing like a difficult transition in their life or having issues with their mental health, the first place they tend to go is to their GP, and then the GP will assign them a mental health plan, right? So which entitles them to between 10 to 20 sessions with usually a clinical psychologist who's got kind of a Medicare provider number. And that might be similar to EP, right? A doctor will prescribe a plan for a client, a patient?
Yes, it's the same, except we're not as lucky. We don't get 10 to 20. We get 5 standard Medicare appointments, which are short by nature.
Okay. So, yeah, it's like reactionary in nature, which is kind of the same as clinical psychology, right? So a patient will come and see a clinical psychologist when they're in a crisis or when they're really down. So from a clinical psychologist or practitioner perspective, your main goal is to bring that person back up to kind of a steady place. But as you said, sometimes when people are steady, they think, oh, I'm okay, I don't need this anymore, or my 10 to 20 sessions are up, I'll just go out there back in the world again. But what about in terms of that, I suppose, constant focus on your mental health, because we've always got different challenges being thrown at us. Like, look at COVID now. It doesn't matter, you can be a very resilient individual. And for those guys down in New South Wales and Vic at the moment, like pretty much everyone needs some kind of support, to get through this time, because a lot of our normal kind of social support mechanisms are removed from us due to the fact that we're actually not encouraged to socialise with people. And our human nature is to connect and be social. And that's actually how we build resilience and we build capability to cope with the various stresses that life throws our way, right? So
the social interaction helps us have coping mechanisms, resilience to deal with life stresses.
Absolutely. So from a clinical perspective, whenever kind of someone comes to you with a mental health problem or whatever it may be, one of the first things you always try to ask about is their social support or their network, or family and friends, and kind of try to do a bit of an assessment about how strong that is, because that's what we call like a protective factor. And it's something that protects us against loneliness, right? And getting stuck in our head, no matter what it is that we're kind of, worried about, because that they say sometimes a problem shared is a problem halved. So it's kind of going back to that point, and if you think about how people used to live back in the day in the villages, we had a very strong kind of, social support network. So that's changed a little bit now sometimes in the cities, and, definitely with COVID now is a new challenge for all of humanity, really, when you think about it from that perspective.
It worries me a lot.
Does it?
Yeah, because I've had a lot of members of our community that's in Newstead. We're all living in apartments. We're all living in smaller spaces, and I mean, not all of our members, but a lot of our members are by themselves in one-bedroom apartments. And last time the lockdowns were being activated, I had a fair few of our members reach out and say, Svet, I'm really not looking forward to this, because last time the lockdowns occurred, I didn't see or chat with anyone in person, like for days, over a week, maybe even like longer. And it was tough. Yeah, I'm hearing it was tough on me, but I can imagine how tough it is on them. They said, yeah, I'm working from home and I'm doing the Zoom, but it's not the same. And they were voicing their concerns about what it will feel like not being able to interact with the community and catch up for tea or coffee or catch up for gym sessions.
Absolutely. And there's no separation from work life. As you say, you can't connect with people. And I think that that's something really special about the ZAR community as well, that it doesn't just provide that opportunity to do another protective thing for our mental health, which is engage in physical activity and kind of strenuous exercise, right? Healthy body, healthy mind, but it also helps us to kind of connect with like-minded individuals. And I think connect socially in a really healthy way. If you think about it, like we have a range of ways that we connect with other people and we spend our leisure time. But I suppose when you think about it, some of the things we engage in our leisure time isn't super healthy, especially in the Australian culture. You know what I mean? Like it's good to go out for a few drinks, but sometimes that can get excessive. And from a mental health perspective during these times, I think it's also really good to make sure that you're getting that physical exercise. And the fact that we're doing that in a group just gives so many kind of, positive kind of knock-on effects in terms of those feel-good endorphins and that kind of sociability piece. As you say, we value it even more because we don't know when the next lockdown's coming, the next period of isolation.
We don't know when it's coming. I've heard some speculation that we might be going into another one because there's some cases in Brisbane now. Yeah, I worry. I worry about our community, but also the wider community of the effects that we're not really being clued into now, the side effects of lockdowns. What's your thoughts on I understand what's being discussed and why lockdowns are being in place, obviously controlling the spread, controlling the virus, etc., etc. My concern is the mental health problems that we're going to deal with now, and even like these lockdowns that we've had in the past. What does that mean for our mental health short term? What does it mean for our mental health medium and long term? Do we need to do a rebuild of like restore everyone's mental health? How do we?
I know.
Yeah.
There's some really good questions. And I think, so if I think about, New South Wales and Vic in particular right now, I think the guys in Victoria are like legitimately experiencing, post-traumatic stress disorder like PTSD, because every time a new lockdown is announced or an extension is announced, it'd be so difficult not to kind of freak out about last year and how long they were, in lockdown. And as you said, the really strong negative mental health impacts of that. Same with New South Wales and Sydney now. It's just no light at the end of the tunnel. It's a very kind of long kind of approach now in lockdown. And from a mental health perspective, I actually think there's going to be a lot of anxiety when we come out of lockdown, when we reach these kind of 70 or 80% herd immunity, whatever the politicians are talking about. And all of a sudden we do have to actually go out and interact in the world, socially and at work and at the gym and everything else, but knowing that there is actually a virus around. So I think now we go out, we put our mask on, we interact, but we kind of know deep down that actually there's not that much virus around, particularly here in Queensland. So I think we're quite comfortable going out and socialising, but I wonder what will happen when the lockdowns actually lift and we're expected to live in this new world where there is actually potentially a really deadly virus. And, what will that do for trust between human beings? Will we have a natural mistrust? Do you know what I mean? Like stranger danger.
I know what you mean.
Will that get even worse? And what does that mean for relationships? What does that mean for business? What does that mean for customers feeling comfortable to come into your business or members to come into your business? So you're seeing kind of organizations and business owners thinking now about their strategy and about what they can do to make their business a kind of a COVID safe and a welcoming environment where people actually feel comfortable coming in and engaging and interacting and being a part of that. Because I think that mistrust is potentially going to be a bit of an issue moving forward, because we're just so used to not interacting anymore and keeping our distance, and we have to keep our distance. And it's also almost become a bit of a social faux pas, if you forget to wear your mask.
Yeah. Everyone's rattled.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot my mask.
Exactly.
I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Can't go in. Yeah.
And people look at you like you're some kind of renegade or bad person, even if you're out and there's, like, do you know what I mean? If you're out and about and you're keeping your distance. And yeah, so I think it's going to be very interesting times to come.
Very interesting times. We've talked about the baseline before off air of like performance baselines.
Yes.
My worry is that as a society, the lockdowns and all the restrictions will lower all of our baselines to, sure, not everyone is going to have clinic depression. Not everyone's going to have clinic anxiety. But I worry that everyone's performance and everyone's abilities will decline.
I reckon you're right. It's funny that they say about the millennials and the younger generation that are already so in their devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does something like COVID mean for the general population? You're exactly right.
Yeah. I know on one hand, why our government and our politicians are doing the lockdowns. And on the other hand, I feel like we're saving lives here, apparently. And then over here, we're damaging mental health, we're damaging physical health, we're compromising lives in another way. And I don't know, I know it's a complex issue, and I don't have all the answers. I don't have any answers, but I think professionals like yourself and other psychologists are more qualified to tell us about the dangers and the problems over here. I mean, I don't understand it. I'm not a psychologist, but I detect the what's reported to me through members of the public in our community as well, and it's not good.
I know. I think it's very interesting the approach Australia's taken, particularly, you and I probably have exposure and perspective to what's going on in Europe, for example, and how they're managing the virus in Europe. So, and that's very different. So I suppose a lot of the time there's a lot more liberties and decision making for us as individuals to make. Whereas I think here in Australia, a lot of those decisions are being made for us. So perhaps a lot of people feel that they've got less control, and that lack of control is leading to some of the frustration, the anxiety, the anger, really, about not being able to do so many things that bring us joy. Go on holidays, travel, open our mind, all those kind of protective factors for us and things we love doing have been taken away from us, and we seriously don't know when they're going to be reinstated. So it's really closed up everyone's world significantly, kind of coming back to what you were talking about, the baseline. Everyone's world is becoming so much smaller. Scary.
Everybody's world is becoming smaller. Yeah. It is scary. It's scary, yeah. And I've seen it over the last couple of weeks, the last lockdowns, but really over the last year and a half. I mean, how long? We're almost, what are we, a couple of months short of 2 years?
I know. A bit more. Yeah, I know. So I personally have never spent more time in Brisbane than I have in the last kind of 18 months to 2 years. Which is, I just try to look for the silver lining, right? So, having the ability to come and, for example, in the gym, get really into the gym when we don't have lockdowns, because, we have more time to focus, and when we have to work so much, we need to offset it with something. And so a lot of us can't travel now and go away. So what can we replace it with? At least we can replace it with the physical activity in the gym,
Yeah. We can. We're lucky, quote unquote lucky in Queensland. Our friends and family in Sydney and Melbourne, they can't. And they don't have access to gyms. They don't have access to a lot of the things that are needed for a healthy immune system, which is concerning.
I know. So it's all gone online now, hasn't it?
It's gone online. But if we chat to any exercise physiologist, chat to any personal trainer, chat to any coach, it's not the same. Individuals that are well trained and on top of their health and fitness, they can manage and they can do enough to keep themselves going at home with no equipment, but it's not easy. Our average Australian cannot. Not everybody can do it by themselves, because we don't all have that self-motivator or that self-motor to get us through it. We benefit from accountability of a professional. We benefit 100%. From accountability of a community. We benefit from that team environment, or getting in the car or going to the commercial gym and just going into that mode, and
that's true.
Stepping out of the comfort mode or the home mode or the work mode or the family mode, and going, it's time for me to invest an hour into my own health and fitness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as an EP, tell me, are you spending more time now kind of talking about mental health or mindset with your members, for example? Do you think that's changed because of COVID?
I think I'm lucky that I was working on it even before COVID.
Yeah, awesome.
Because I've realized that you can be really, really good and on top of your exercise, on top of your training, but if you neglect mindset and nutrition, you will get less results.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you work on all three buckets, you get a heck of a lot more results. So certainly I'm talking about mental health and working on mental health education a lot now, and mindset a lot, but I think I was already doing it.
Awesome. That's really good. And I really enjoyed some of the conversations we've had about that for myself personally, and how you've kind of linked that for me, like kind of the business side of things and kind of gym performance and how they're linked.
Yeah, I did enjoy those chats. Yeah. So the problem that I have is we all know that exercise is good. We all know that health is important. We all know that um, having too much fat on our body is bad. We all know that if we exercise, we'll feel better. But as a society, we are one of the most obese nations on planet Earth. We're moving less. Our average Australian is sedentary, lots of desk work, sitting at home, sitting at work. So how do we make the link? I mean, community members of ours that are active members but aren't getting into the gym, successful business people that know exercise is important, but they're not
like their sleep-ins.
But they like their sleep-ins, or they like prioritizing work a lot, or they prioritize family a lot. So what can we do from a mental game or mindset point of view to help those community members get to the gym? And I haven't figured it out. I'm still searching for answers.
You haven't figured it out?
No, I don't know. I have a feeling. I've had some things that I've detected that might work, but I love learning this from you and hearing what your thoughts are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think like when we can get really overwhelmed and really stressed when we have a lot on our plate, right? So I see some of the stuff you post about. So are they some of the typical excuses or reasons that you tend to hear?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Have you seen me talking about that a lot?
Yeah. So what are your favourite ones that you hear?
I have so many favourites. The one that I hear the most is, I just don't have time at the moment.
So really? You're just not making it a priority at the moment.
That's all that means, right? We all have 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 365 in a year.
And you know what the ironic thing is, Spet? The busier we are, the more stressed we are, the more overwhelmed we are, the more we need all of these mental resources and physical resources, the more time we actually need to invest and put back in ourselves, right? So if you think about it, the more you're giving and the more you're putting out, the more you actually need to put back in and give to yourself. So self-care actually becomes super important, and you need to amp up your self-care during really busy periods. But the ironic thing is, and it's very counterintuitive, is that the busier we get, what falls off is the self-care, the exercise, all those things that we think are fringe benefits when actually they should be essential things to keep our motor and our car running, right?
Yes.
So the busier I am, the more often I try to get to the gym, right? Because I need it more. And then the times when I'm less stressed and I've got less burdens and priorities on me, that's the time when I can chill out a little bit, right? So that's really where the rubber hits the road for people. So what can we do to make sure that they put themselves first and their self-care back up as a priority? So there are a lot of the conversations I actually have with a lot of kind of business owners and leaders that I work with, because the more ambitious you are, the more high performing you are, the more driven you are, actually the more you need to focus on this kind of holistic thing of self-care and kind of taking care of yourself so that you don't experience burnout, right? So do you get people that come to you that have burnt out? Or
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of patients in the past that have been burnt out. Yeah.
And when they're burnt out, like, how do you interpret burnout? What do you see? What do you hear? What does that look like to you?
That's a really good question. The way they present is often very weak, very fragile, low levels of fitness, low levels of strength. Sometimes they look pale and unwell. Other times, no. They present healthy on the outside, but most of the time they don't present with the healthiest look. And often they'll say the last X amount of time, last couple of years, or the last 2 years or 5 years, I've really been redlining at work, really big hours, lots of stress, very demanding work output, and I just crashed. And now I experience either high pain and physical pain, very sensitive musculoskeletal system. So everything is heightened. Say it's neck pain or something that you and I would detect as a niggle and be able to carry on with our day. The person that's experienced burnout, that niggle or that tweak becomes crippling, where they can't function in everyday life from that musculoskeletal injury.
Okay.
Other things are that
psychologically, what do you notice about that?
Psychologically, they'll say very low energy. Everything is a chore. Like I wake up in the morning and I never feel fresh. I don't feel the vigor or the intensity to get on with my day. So exercise is therefore really, really, really hard. And I've put it in the too hard basket because low energy levels, fatigue. Yeah.
So they're not feeling positive. They're not speaking positively or in control type thing. They're not feeling on top of things.
No, they're definitely not feeling in control. They're definitely not. Sometimes they feel positive, sometimes no. But most of the times, I wouldn't say they're in control or getting after it. Yeah.
Exactly. So what do you do? What's your first step to help them feel more in control?
My first step to help them feel more in control. Usually, I like to start with an initial assessment.
Yes.
And get to know them as a person. Get to know, outside of burnout, what do they have any other relevant medical history, and we go through a profile, questions and discussion points. Really, not so much questions, but more discussion points that I've engineered over more than a decade of practice that I've found has helped other patients. Things like musculoskeletal system, medication, alcohol, nutrition, sleep, psychological stress levels, where they're at the moment, supplements, vitamins, current exercise, history of exercise, what exercise equipment they have access to at home. And then I like to finish with investing a lot of time in goal setting and what they're looking for with their health and fitness journey. That's from a personal point of view, and then often I'll have some correspondence from their GP or like clinical goals as well. Yeah.
Cool.
So the more that I get into this, the more I realize that goal setting is important as an anchor. Yes. Because when they experience extra burdens, extra stress, hurdles in the road, without a strong link to their goal setting, it's very easy to just say, "Oh, I'll pick up exercise next week," or "I'll get back to it when I'm feeling higher energy," which is counterproductive.
Absolutely, yeah. So we really need to cut and short circuit that kind of burnout loop, don't we?
Yeah.
And so when people are feeling overwhelmed, I think setting goals and giving them a very clear focus, no more than kind of 3 key areas usually, is very effective. So I was going to pick up on that goal setting because I think that's super important, because you're trying to kind of understand them, aren't you, and kind of hook into what's important to them, what motivates them, what are their values, why do they want to get fit, or why do they want to turn their life around, and you know, what can you help kind of coach them and hold them accountable to?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you mind if we go back to self-care?
Yes.
That previous discussion point I found fascinating.
Yes.
Should we enjoy some rakia now?
Yeah, definitely. Good self-care.
Perfect self-care on cue.
Because it's Friday afternoon, so we're having our Friday afternoon drink.
If it was Monday, Tuesday,
I'd still enjoy
some rakia with you. So we got a fruit brandy.
Do we?
Dunya.
Well, the Greeks like that one. What do you think?
I'm not sure. It's made out of quince, but what's ouzo made of?
Liquor, like licorice flavor.
Yeah, so this doesn't
taste... But that's fruity.
Yeah.
But?
It's more of a fruity flavor. I've got the shot glass here. Excellent. Just so that we can make sure that we pour a right amount. Otherwise,
in moderation.
Yeah, I make the mistake of pouring just a really strong one. I make that mistake all the time. I enjoy that mistake. It's rakia time. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's a big shot.
Cheers, bro. Cheers, Eleni.
Thank you, Svet.
Thank you, Eleni. So the fruit it's made out of is quince.
Yeah, I like quince.
You like quince?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had some Greek. It wasn't quite ouzo, but it was something that you mix with something else. It was a licorice style taste.
Liqueur or licorice?
Yeah, like a liqueur.
Okay.
It was for New Year's. This last New Year's. Yeah.
This is good.
So, what does self-care mean? So, to me, it's recharging batteries and finding what helps you restore your energy levels. Mm-hmm. But what do you think about self-care? And your business professionals that you work with say they've got lots of deadlines, big business deals, mergers, taking over the world. What type of self-care do you recommend?
So I think self-care is about looking after yourself. And I think self-care and looking after yourself means different things to different people, right? So that all depends about what's important to you, right? So what what constitutes success for you and what's important for you. So different people will have different strategies and different approaches to unwinding, right, and decompressing. So I think it's really important to always, like you just said, like get to know the person in front of you holistically and partner with them to really understand what is going to be an effective form of self-care for them, right? So if they don't like yoga, or if they don't like doing mindfulness, or if they don't like breathing, like there's no point getting people to do that if that isn't relaxing for them.
Okay.
Right? Like, not saying that they can never master or learn those things, but maybe there's some other self-care activities we can get them to be doing first so they can come down and be in what we call the green zone, right? So if you think of it as a traffic light model, so when you're really angry, you're up in the red zone, right?
Okay.
So can you think of a time when you're red? What do you look like when you're red? Tell me an example of that when you're red.
My face actually goes red.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah? What triggers you? Tell me about a trigger. In the last week or the last fortnight, what's made you go red?
This is a really good question. Trying to think work stuff.
And you don't have to tell me the actual thing, but tell me, how did it make you freaking feel?
I'd love to tell you the actual thing as well. I'm just trying to pinpoint something.
When you got mad, angry.
Whoa. Well, why can I not think of anything? I've definitely been triggered in the last 7 days, but I can't remember. The way that it makes me feel, normally I get, and I've been working on this for the last probably 2 years or so, and normally I get reactive, and then I start either speaking really fast or I lift the volume, like the volume of my voice.
Yes.
So instead of talking chill mode, I start to talk a little bit strong without realizing.
Yes.
It's not intentional, but I realize, oh man, all of a sudden, I'm speaking louder.
You're going into Viking mode. Yeah.
Maybe I go into Viking mode. I'm not sure.
Scary?
No, I don't think it's scary, but I don't know because I've never been on the receiving end. I don't. Yeah. Yeah. So normally I'll go. Maybe my heart rate starts to elevate a little bit. Maybe my breathe. I'm not as on top of my breathing. And
you then get red.
I don't know if I get red. Probably the biggest thing I detect is my voice volume increase.
Okay. Yeah. And what do you do when that happens?
So when I was younger, maybe 5, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, I didn't even have awareness of it.
Okay.
Like that wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
It's only the last couple of years that I've started to get more self-aware.
Yes.
And I've worked on myself more.
Awesome.
Which, so now I can detect before I go into that.
Yes.
And the biggest thing that helps me is I just stay silent. Good. And if it's with another human, I'll let the other person speak and I'll just be more silent. Not in a nasty way, but just staying silent helps me detach a little bit more and just compute what the problem is and what's going on.
Love it.
So I'll use an example that might have triggered me in the past. Before our podcast, I was at the bank. In between, after training, I dropped into...
Really?
Yeah, I dropped into...
That's where you really were?
Yeah, well, I was at Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And then I was at the bank on my way back. Yeah.
So that's why you're feeling chill today.
So chill.
And you can't even think of a red situation.
I promise you, maybe that's what it is.
So you did self-care today. Self-care Friday.
Hell yeah.
So you like doing jiu-jitsu?
I love doing jiu-jitsu.
What do you like about jiu-jitsu?
I like how you're asking these questions. This is amazing. What I like about jiu-jitsu is, first of all, I feel like I'm learning a new skill that I can continue to practice and get better at for the rest of my life. Because even when I'm really old or older, when maybe I can't do as much intense exercise, I'll be able to continue to get better at jiu-jitsu. So it's like an evolution that draws to me. Kind of like golf to some people.
Yes.
When you start golf really, really young and like middle age, and then you can continue into old age, stroll around the course, and then tee off like a boss.
So if you think about golf and jiu-jitsu and self-care, what is it about those activities that makes it a good self-care activity?
Training in general, I put in the self-care bucket for myself. So it can be any movement. Definitely Jiu Jitsu, definitely strength training. I could be cycling with mates. I could be going for a walk. I could be stretching. I could be walking the dog, walking with Shady. Yeah. And I think all of that helps me recharge. But Jiu Jitsu in particular, probably learning new skills and the challenge. But I don't know, there's something nice about playing with an opponent or learning with an opponent, practicing with an opponent, and then they're trying to choke you out or submit you and break your arm, and you're trying to submit them, break their arm. And of course, it's a really safe and welcoming environment. I practice at a really, because if
sounds like it.
Well, if you were and there maybe some.
Do they match you up with size and weight? And
no,
stuff?
you roll with everybody. So you'll have a black belt rolling with a white belt, and you'll have a
boys or boys and girls.
Boys and girls. Oh. Yeah. And maybe some places around the world, although Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is usually pretty good, but maybe, what you want to try and avoid is places where there's lots of ego or pride, which
good, we're getting closer now.
Yeah.
Good, keep going.
So it's very humbling.
Yes.
Like you could be strong in the gym and then go roll with some dude and he'll just turn you into a pretzel and you'll have to tap. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not that strong or that. There's lots of things that I like about BJJ. I could talk about it all day, but the self-care side of things, I think for me, exercise and training works because it's time out from work, time out from other things, and it's just exercise skill. So I'm working on improving myself. I'm working on recharging the batteries.
Yes, and they talk about the martial arts being very good from a purpose perspective and character building.
Okay.
So you know how you just said it's very humbling.
Yeah.
And you don't like being around a lot of ego.
Well, in martial arts, I think ego gets extinguished pretty quick. You can, like the ego guys, I don't think they'll last very long because it won't get you far. You'll come in, you won't learn as much, or you won't develop as well as someone else that doesn't have an ego and doesn't have pride and can learn more and soak information more and take away lessons and then keep getting better.
So self-awareness and growth, being in the learner mindset is really important, right? And dropping the ego, because the ego can be a big block for us in terms of growth and connection, right? And even trying something new and self-care and just being authentic and being honest with ourselves, right? Because if we're always trying to put that ego up, it creates a really big wall and a barrier, right? And it can be very self-limiting and you don't always feel that great hiding behind your ego.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So martial arts is often reported as a really good kind of not only self-care activity, but also like a really good humbling and character building type of activity for some of these reasons that you've talked about, because it's really based in some ancient kind of principles around being, right? And the way that the belt system works as well.
Yes.
So, and as you kind of hinted at it, it's not just about physical prowess. It's also about, some other types of characteristics.
Yeah. Well, especially BJJ, because it was, I think part of how it was developed was for a smaller athlete to take on a bigger athlete. That's just, a big kickboxer or a big boxer. And a smaller athlete can take that person down and then choke them out and not have to use,
brute force,
striking force. Yeah. But other strategy. Anyway. What I was getting at with the bank example.
Yes, red, because we talked about.
I enjoyed an amazing BJJ session, and then I thought, I've got plenty of time. I can duck into the bank and pick up some documents that I need to arrange for our landlord before my podcast with Eleni. Plenty of time. But the bank teller and the team there was in shambles. They even though the documents were meant to be prepared, they weren't. And kind of long story short, they had no idea what was going on where the documents were. So the old me might have started panicking or stressing or started getting anxious or nervous about, damn, I gotta guys, hurry up, I need to get out of here, be at the podcast. But I guess the more developed me just enjoyed some breathing, and I was like, take your time, it's okay, these things happen. And then I enjoyed breathing and I multitasked and did some emails instead. So I felt more productive because I was working away through emails on my phone, and then I kept a good look on the clock to when I needed to leave, and then it wasn't resolved, and I said, look, we can worry about this later. I have to leave now. Thank you. So there was zero stress from my end, zero panic, zero raising my voice.
That's awesome. So you're able to respond rather than react.
Yeah, and I think I responded rather than reacted, and I think maybe in the past this would have been a trigger.
Yes.
It definitely would have been a trigger. I would have got a bit more stressed or a bit more panicky of, man, I don't want to let Eleni down. I don't want to keep Eleni waiting because I appreciate Eleni's time. And I also know that this is important and I need to get it done for business.
Absolutely. So this is why self-care is so important, right? Because the fact that you were just doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would have brought you back into what we call the green zone, right? So if you think of it like as a thermometer or a traffic light system, look, red zone is extreme times, right, where we really lose our crap, right? Something triggers us and we just flick up into that emotionality zone. So our more developed brain switches off and we go back into our caveman brain and our emotionality, and we just react, right? And we say things that we regret, we raise our voice, whatever it is, we ramble our way in the bank, and we go, oh my God, like, what was I even thinking? Why did I act like that? What did that achieve? I look like a douchebag and I made that other person feel like crap, So basically what happens is if you don't get enough self-care and do enough green activity, so at least once a day.
Once a day?
Yeah, at least once a day. At least once. We recommend doing some kind of activity to come back into your green zone. So what I actually do with people is I get them to print out their weekly planner, and I give them highlighters, yellow highlighter or orange highlighter. So orange highlighter for red, yellow highlighter for orange, and a green highlighter. And I make them highlight all the different meetings and activities, say in the last week or the last month, so I can see at a glance how much green they've got going in their days and their weeks, right? Because what happens is that, when people are at burnout zone, that's quite often when they've been in a chronic orange for a long time. So they've just been coasting along in that elevated level of stress, not to the point where they're going red, but when you're orange for a long time, it's much quicker and easier to flick up into red.
Okay.
So as you described, if you hadn't just been down in the green zone and it was the end of a busy week, Friday lunchtime, you could have been more likely to have your Rambo reaction than have your more developed sweat.
Yeah.
I'm going to reframe this. I'm going to see what else I can do here. This isn't the end of the world type thing. So that's why self-care is important, right? So, and that's why it looks different for everyone. So for me, for example, I find that when I set up my week well from the start, even if I'm really busy on Monday, Tuesday, like when my Mondays and Tuesdays are really busy, it becomes like a non-negotiable for me to get to the gym.
Okay.
Right? Because I know if I don't get that yoga session in on Monday night, or if I don't get that Pilates session in on Tuesday, I'm going to be feeling like I'm really peaking, like I'm at orange and it's so freaking easy for me to go to red. And I'm not feeling in control, right? And I'm just getting frustrated and I'm reacting to what's coming in at me. But if on a Monday night I come and do my yoga session, like you always tell me what do I look like when I come out of yoga?
Chill.
You're like zen. A different person.
Yeah, you're just you're floating.
Yeah.
Just slower and way more calm. Yeah.
I love it. It's the best feeling ever. So for me, I love yoga. I love getting into the balances. For me, it forces me to do the breathing. Same with Pilates, really. And as you're introducing me to with the lifting, the powerlifting and the strength and conditioning, same thing. So I really enjoy that when you talk about the breath work and you can kind of connect it back up to the mind for me, and I feel more in control and I feel more powerful. And I do feel awesome after I've done those strength classes and I've lifted something. And I'm like, man, I'm not frazzled and I'm not overwhelmed. I was able to focus in to lift that weight. I was able to do, what's it called when you made me the little Flintstone, what's it called, a barbell?
Deadlifting. Flintstone barbell for deadlifts. Yeah, we used a broomstick with the technique plates.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
And I was sore the next day.
Good.
And I felt really good when I woke up. I'm like, you know what? I did it. I didn't just default to my easy exercise.
Good. Yeah.
It didn't. And I felt really good all weekend.
Good.
So self-care looks different for everyone, but it should give you that same feeling. Do you know what I mean? That in control feeling, that floating feeling, that I feel more back in control of my life. Yeah.
Okay, so if a member of our community has never even thought about self-care, they didn't even know self-care existed, and they thought self-care was something that pansies did.
Yeah.
Where do they start? What do they do?
So can I share a method that I use with some of my coaching clients?
Okay.
Can I show you one of the books that I use?
For sure. Yeah. What are all these books?
Yeah, I know. I bought some books along. We can go through them.
Okay.
Can you guys see this? The Life Plan. Excellent.
The Life Plan by Shannon Kennedy.
By Shana Kennedy. Yeah. So this book, do you believe it's available at Kmart?
I don't believe that. Yeah. Wow, it's at Kmart?
Yeah. Do you know how good Kmart is?
Actually?
I have read so many awesome books from Kmart during COVID. So many books that I reckon are really good quality from a psychology perspective that have been repackaged into something more kind of usable.
Okay.
So, for example, now, you know, a lot of people suffering during COVID, it can take months to get in to see a clinical psychologist, but just go online to Kmart, to the book section, and there are so many books about, you know, personal development and life, right? So this one called The Life Plan is a favorite of mine. This lady, Shana Kennedy, she's an executive coach and a speaker. She's Australian. She was a corporate high flyer that got chronic fatigue syndrome, right?
Okay.
So she's a mom. Her husband's a CEO. She's got a family, and she's really committed to her kind of, you know, her professional career. And she kind of decided that if she wanted to, you know, keep all the balls in the air juggling, she was going to have to focus her energy, right? And get clear on what her priorities and her values are to create a meaningful life. So the Life Plan book is about strategies to create a meaningful life. So quite often when people come to me for the same things that you just talked about as an EP, I'm really burnt out. I don't know, you know, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling like myself. I don't know what my next step is. I'm feeling in a rut in my career and life. I'm just feeling really overwhelmed and I just need to get my mojo back, right? So this is one of the first places I send them, to Kmart, to get the book. And there's a couple of things I go through, and you asked me like how it's connected to self-care, right? So there's something in this book called an example hope map. Can you see this?
I can see that.
What does this look like to you, Svet?
Example hope map.
So describe
like
this
cool
to
table.
me. Yeah.
It looks very easy to read.
Awesome.
There's different topics on one axis, and then there's different goal, obstacle, pathway, outcome on the other axis.
Yeah, it's like a little life audit, right? So it looks at all the different areas of one's life.
Okay.
And it asks you to
this
kind
is really
of
fun
say,
while we sip rakia.
Yeah, exactly. And so it asks you in each of these areas, so mental health, physical health, relationships, finances, personal environment, career, passions, and hobbies.
Okay.
So it asks you, what's your goal? So if you're doing goal setting with someone, for example, this is a way to structure that kind of conversation a little bit more fully. There might be some people or some members that you think would really benefit from this kind of structured goal setting approach.
Okay.
Right? So
like if we were to give each athlete or each member those buckets, and then they had to pick something from that bucket.
Absolutely.
I've never thought of that. Normally I leave it open-ended and leave it to the athlete or the client or the patient, and I say what's important to you, and we can go into any bucket. This is cool. I like this.
Yeah, so you can even give them a checklist of buckets. You can get them to rank order which buckets are most important to them.
Okay.
I
like that.
Yeah, but so you can get clear on what your goal is in each area, what the outcome or success looks like for you. What are any obstacles or problems or barriers that might get in the way? So this is where a coach or an EP, someone that's holding someone accountable, can help brainstorm and troubleshoot through these guys.
So do you mind if I read out those obstacles? Some of those look really good. No time, too busy. Always in a rush. So that's for mental health. No time, too busy. Physical health, always in a rush, too tired, can't be bothered. That's a common one. Relationships, honestly can be painful at times. Lack of time and energy to invest in people. Finances, lack of money. Personal environment, lack of time, task is overwhelming. Career, too busy to spend time looking for them. Okay.
And what
passions and hobbies, too busy or too tired.
So basically too hard basket, negative, lacking in something, feel like you can't do it. What's some of the language in the outcome section?
Okay, so for mental health, feeling of space and control in my life, having a simple defined rule, making it easy to achieve. Physical health, more energy in the morning, not as likely to eat unhealthy morning snacks, ice cream for breakfast. Relationships, feel energetic and enjoy people. Attract more like-minded people when I am focusing on being the best that I can be. Finances, regain control of my money. Can make more informed choices that add to my confidence rather than spending for therapy. Personal environment, less tidying all the time by doing all the simple things as they arise and not double handling everything.
Yeah, there you go. So something like this is good for people's self-awareness and to help them understand like how in control or how on point are they in terms of their current life right now in each of these different areas, right?
Okay.
So you can start to see where there is alignment for people versus where there is misalignment. So you would think that someone coming to you is probably not that happy with their physical health. Would that be right?
Yep.
Yeah. Did these other things come out in your conversations at all?
Yeah, physical health, mental health, finances doesn't really come out in conversation. Relationships, sometimes.
Yeah.
Relationships would be in top 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some athletes will highlight when I'm on top of my physical health, I'm a better version of myself for those around me,
That's awesome.
which is really good awareness. Like I'm calmer at work, I'm less snappy at my staff, etc., etc. Yeah, personal environment, no. Career, yes, it's in the top 3 as well. Yeah, I'm lucky that our athletes highlight that when I'm on top of my physical health, it helps me with my career, it helps me with my business.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So lots of good knock-on effects.
Yeah, passions and hobbies, not really. Oh, sometimes.
Yes.
Like athletes will say, I really want to get back to skiing, but like my legs are so weak, I get cooked. Just doing a bodyweight squat, I'm afraid of facing down. Yeah,
Cool.
sometimes, yeah.
That's good. So yeah, this can be really effective to kind of get to know someone better and help them to understand themselves better.
Okay.
And another thing I love about this book is it helps people define their values and what's really important to them too.
Okay.
And so values is something that changes quite a bit depending on where we're at in our lives.
Okay.
Okay. So it gives a little...
Why are values important?
Why do you think values are important?
I think if we don't, for example, if someone wants to start their exercise journey, but they don't know why they're doing it, they're way more likely to quit.
Yep.
They're more way likely to stop just before they get a proper transformation or they get results. So if they value their own health, because their own health and their fitness is linked to how they look, how they feel, their relationships with their family, their work, then it helps with that priority stacking.
Yes, definitely. Because values are really important to purpose, right? So if you understand what your values are, you can be more purposeful in your actions and where you spend your time so that you're engaging in more meaningful activity, right? And then you're living a life that is authentic and you're being a more authentic or real version of yourself.
I like that.
So when people are living or away from their values or they're not aware of their values, that's where burnout can happen. That can be where unhappiness can happen, dissatisfaction, frustration.
Okay.
All the drainers can come in. So that's why when people are not feeling like the best version of themselves, it could be that they've moved away from their values or their values have changed, right? Because values really change depending on where we're at in life. So it's always something good to come back to. So what I find with like a table like this.
What's an example of values? Is that what the table has on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with this one, you're meant to try to pick out your top 10 values and then your top 3. Okay. So out of that list there, Svet, what are the top 3 values? So if I had to ask you, what are the 3 most important things to you right now? And you had to pick out 3 values from that list.
That's a scary question.
I know. Have you actually got a pen? Has anyone got a pen?
None of these boys would have a pen, for sure. Hold up, let me check my bum bag. The boys just asked what's a pen.
Otherwise, if you just grab my bag for me, I've got a pen in there.
Oh, thank you. Nice material, Eleni.
Thank you.
Lost it. Nice branding. I really like these.
You like it?
These vibes.
Okay, here's a pen.
Eleni Dracakis.com.
From the Greek club.
Hey.
Okay,
Typical.
so can you please write your name and today's date?
Write my name and today's date. This is official.
Yeah. So what does it say? Mentored minds make great things happen.
Okay. Mentored minds make great things happen. My name and date.
Borojevic. Do you have a middle name?
The J is a silent Y. Like
Borojevic.
Hey.
Borojevic.
And the K is a Ch. That's why it's got a little.
Borojevic.
Yeah.
Middle name.
Oh, no middle names
No
in
middle
Serbia.
name. Okay, cool. 3rd of September.
3rd of September.
Excellent.
This is legit.
Very good. It is legit.
Okay. It's a big list. Wow, there's lots in here. Competitiveness. Come on.
No, be real.
Okay. I have to pick 3? This is not an easy task.
What's a byline of competitiveness? So what is it? How does it describe competitiveness?
Competitiveness. Winning or taking risks? Or winning
Potentially.
and taking risks? No, this is not me. I just thought that was fascinating.
It's not you?
No. Not putting that on there.
Is it not competitive? What do you guys reckon?
Maybe a little bit. Okay. Is this order of importance or just
it could be,
any
order of importance.
Oh,
very
geez.
good. Yeah, it's going to be really tough.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to start with health.
Oh, excellent. What's a byline for health?
Mental health and physical health.
Cool. So why have you picked out health there?
Because if I value my health, I know for a fact that I can do a really good job at all of these other values that are important to me.
Excellent. Cool. Yep. So health is number 1.
Yeah. Not my one, not my selection, but fame is on here. Public recognition. Oh my God. Not judging. There's some really good ones on here. Self-respect, generosity, spirituality, loyalty, inner harmony, wealth, creativity, energy. Oh my God. This is hard. This is not an easy drill.
These are really hard.
Do your clients struggle to pick a top 3?
Absolutely. So we work on the top 10 first. But anyway, think about it instinctively. So you picked health first.
You just want me to rattle them off. Okay.
Yeah, health jumped out at you first. So if we remove health, what jumps out at you next? Intuitively.
The ones that are jumping out at me next is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And it says the byline is independence or autonomy.
Yeah.
Another one that jumps out at me is culture. And the byline is traditions, customs, and beliefs.
Yeah, this sounds like Svetazar. It does, actually.
And another one that jumps out at me is family happiness.
Yeah.
Another one that jumps out is self-respect, sense of personal identity and pride. I'm going to go family happiness next.
Why are you doing that one next?
Something that I value a lot. I'm not sure why. My family, my friends, my team is really important to me. It's a high value in my life.
Awesome. So these will be guiding principles, that act as decision-making criteria for you. Okay. So if you think about big decisions or when you're not sure about something, you can actually use your values to help guide an answer to those kind of sticky situations, right? So you can put a lens over it and go will this be beneficial for my health? How does this impact on my family happiness? It'll help guide you in the right direction.
Okay. So there's so many good ones on here. My next one would probably be personal development.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I'm sure this is an evolution and maybe these change.
They 100% change.
This is kind of cool.
With you like pen.
It? Yeah, well, I like that it's pen and nice material and you're physically writing.
Absolutely.
You're going to make me stick this on my fridge, aren't you?
I absolutely am. It's going to be a little postcard. So, Svet, what was the byline for personal development?
Use of Personal potential.
Oh,
that's
love
up there.
it.
Yeah.
Unleash your dragon. Thank you.
What's your top 3, Eleni?
My top 3, when I did this, actually, it was a little while ago.
Hello, Jill.
But my actual top 1 was health as well.
Okay. Your top 1 was health?
Yeah, mental and physical health. My next one was order, so stability, conformity, and tranquility. I think I'd just come back from overseas for a couple of months, and I was trying to set my routine. I was starting my new business, and I really wanted to try to get into some kind of flow and some kind of routine because I love variety so much. I think sometimes it can be hard for me to establish routine.
Okay.
But I feel like we always perform at our best when we've got that kind of order and that predictability in our lives. So that was my second one. And my third one was cooperation, working well with others and teamwork.
Okay.
I don't remember why that was important to me. I have to come back to that. Maybe I was doing stuff on my own in my business and I was trying to find people to work with and through. Okay. Maybe that's why, in a cooperative way, rather than being all on my own all the time. So I really do like that. Having people around me really energizes me. So yeah, they were my 3 at that time. But I reckon if I sat down and looked at it now, that definitely some of those things would change. Absolutely.
Okay.
So this stuff isn't set in stone.
You can evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. You can evolve.
So we've gone through self-care.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through values.
Mm-hmm.
And the values help us
live a successful and meaningful life.
Okay.
That feels purposeful to us.
Okay. They help us anchor that purpose, and they help us in times of struggle, or burden, or other stress.
100%.
Okay.
100% it does. So it helps us kind of when we're feeling in a rut and we don't know which direction. So value is really important to know what your personal values are, because that's yourself as a person, that's your integrity.
Okay.
And these are the guiding principles or the anchors in your life, right? So when you don't know which way to go, you can come back to this.
That's kind of cool.
Does it satisfy these 3 criteria? If it satisfies these 3 criteria, I can predict that I'm going to be operating or going in a direction that's right for me based on what's important to me right now. Because I don't have all the facts, don't know how it's going to turn out, but I know that I'm moving in the direction that is principled and purposeful for me, right? And of value to me at this point in my life. So as long as what you're doing is positive for your health, your mental and your physical health, your family are going to be happy with it, and it gives you some kind of personal development, that's going to tick your 3 most important boxes according to this.
That's amazing. And for our community that wants to check out and do their own top 3,
yes,
Shana Kennedy's book is a good place to check out values, or maybe they can just find values elsewhere.
Yeah, so Shana Kennedy's book is great. It's actually based on The Happiness Trap by Dr. Russ Harris, Positive Psychology, the godfather of positive psychology.
I've heard that title before. I haven't read it. The Positive Trap.
So positive psychology, it's called The Happiness Trap.
Okay.
Right, so when you talk about positive psychology, sometimes people interpret that as having to be positive and happy all the time. So have you heard about that toxic positivity type thing?
I've seen, I have heard about it. I've read a couple of things on social media.
Yeah, so...
What's positive toxic?
Yeah, so toxic positivity.
Toxic positivity, I'm butchering this.
Can we have more rakia?
Yeah. Can we have a more rakia?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Okay, so you know how on social media it talks about it's like the highlight reels of people's lives, and a lot of people say it's like inauthentic, right? Because they're like, that's not what that person's life is really like. Well, I know that person in real life and they don't actually show up like that in real life.
So true, right?
So yeah, that's what they're saying. It's not all about being positive all the time. It's about being aligned and living with purpose, living authentically to your values. So this is the whole thing about positive psychology. It's called acceptance commitment therapy.
Okay.
And it's based on the premise that we need to live authentically rather than...
a little bit more? Okay. I like how I do a bit of this and then a bit of a top up. Jojo, would you like some more? You good? Okay.
So yeah.
You good?
You're good. So yeah, being positive all the time isn't actually that awesome for your mental and physical health, right? Because there's sometimes where it's not appropriate to be positive. Being more neutral is more appropriate, right? So you can't be like seeing the positive, bright side of everything all the time, because there might validly be situations that, you know,
it's not good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of unrealistic to not understand the depth of that, right?
Okay.
So he talks about it's more about being an authentic version of you, right? So understanding what's important to you in each of those areas of your life. So he has a whole heap of free resources online. If you Google The Happiness Trap, that's his book.
The Happiness Trap.
And he goes, yeah, people get trapped in happiness, right? And the toxic positivity movement, that they think they've got to be happy and positive all the time. And that's actually not a realistic way to be. We have the whole gamut of emotions, and they're there for a reason, right? Like sometimes you do feel sad. Sometimes you do feel angry.
I'm going to write this down.
Yeah.
I want to read the book.
Yeah, it's really
good. The Happiness Trap. I'm going to add it to my book list.
And her stuff is actually really based on Russ Harris. So if you so he uses a form of therapy.
I have a list called Books from Eleni. On here you've suggested Food Jail and The Life Plan.
Yeah, so Food Jail, that's interesting. Sorry to digress, but
The Happiness Trap. Sorry, I'm butchering this.
That's all right. Have you heard of orthorexia?
No. Orthorexia.
So it's not like a full-on eating disorder or health disorder. It's more like modern-day living form of health.
Okay.
Orthorexia is that obsession with kind of the perfect body or healthy eating.
Okay.
So it's kind of linked to toxic positivity when you think about it.
Okay.
Too much of anything is a good thing. So, you know, these like, I don't know what other influencers, like the gymming influencers that are always...
Yeah, they're big on social media, aren't they? Fitness influencers, gym influencers, booty band sellers, bros selling protein.
So how healthy and realistic is some of that, do you reckon?
I don't know. I don't think it's very healthy. I don't think it's very realistic. No, not at all.
Yeah, so what have you seen?
A lot of it is bullshit.
So when people are training for a comp, or they're very rigid around certain eating behaviors or certain rituals, but it gets too much. It gets like obsessive, compulsive. It gets to the point where it impacts and dominates the way they live their life.
Absolutely.
Their social occasions, like not being able to eat out with friends because, I don't know, the food's not right, having to obsessively count calories, right? So that's actually called orthorexia, and it's actually kind of a modern day kind of health disorder.
Okay.
It's not in the...
Orthorexia.
Yeah, orthorexia, so the obsession with eating healthy. When it goes too far and it gets to the point where it impacts your daily life, but not in a good way.
Okay.
Because you start to restrict yourself in other areas. So, yeah, that's that Food Jail book.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, that's what Food Jail's about.
Yeah,
okay.
But you asked me about, so the acceptance commitment therapy and the positive psychology, right? The toxic positivity. That's what you asked me about, yeah?
I can't remember.
Can't remember?
Yeah.
The rakyal's kicking in.
Yeah, this is good.
But so that Life Plan book is really based on the positive psychology movement by Dr. Russ Harris of The Happiness Trap.
Okay.
Right? And so he looks at all those different areas of our lives like a bullseye, like a circle. He puts all the different areas of life on the outside of the circle, and he asks you to put a little cross on how happy are you, or how authentically are you living in each of those areas of your life. So how happy are you with your mental health, with your physical health, and your personal environment? And where you have the cross more on the outside of the circle, that tells you where you're further away from your values, where you're out of alignment, where the areas are where you need to work on, versus those kind of slices of the pie where you feel like, yeah, I'm killing it, I'm hitting my goals, and you put your cross really closer to the bullseye or the center of the circle.
Okay.
Right? So he talks a lot about using solution-focused therapy, or focusing on the future, focusing on what good looks like, focusing on what meaningful or purposeful looks like for you, as opposed to magnifying the problem. So a lot of the time in traditional psychology, when you go to see a psychologist, they use something called cognitive behavioral therapy.
I've heard of that.
Or faulty thinking.
Okay. I've heard CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
And so trying to fix and turn around people's faulty thoughts. Whereas acceptance commitment therapy says that no emotion or no feeling is bad. We just have to let it float by and kind of diffuse from it, right? And just accept that it's there, but commit to moving more towards a solution, or, you know, a more probable positive outcome for ourselves. So they talk a lot about being in flow state. Have you ever heard about being in flow state?
I have.
Yeah?
I've researched it a little bit, mostly through athletes and exercise science. I love a good flow state.
What does flow state mean to you?
It means, right now at this point in time, it means when you're performing an activity or doing something, and it could be everyday life, it could be training, it could be a conversation, and time just ceases to exist.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you were flowing so much that you feel energized, I don't know, you might feel happy, but you sort of forget what you're doing, and because you're enjoying it so much, right? Like, for example, you and I could be flowing in this podcast. Before we know it, it's been 3 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. So flow state, you're enjoying it. So you're in the moment, you're in enjoyment state, and you're also exploiting your key strengths. So you're good at it, and it brings you enjoyment.
Okay.
So when you enjoy it and you're good at it, that's when you're in flow state.
Okay.
So there's
when you enjoy it and when you're good at it.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that's cool.
Strength, understanding and knowing what your strengths are. So there's a really good free resource online where it's called the Strengths Finder.
Okay.
And it's like GOVIA, character. And so you can do a little online survey that brings you up what are your top 3 strengths for you. So there's a lot of free, really good resources out there for finding your purpose, for being happier, for being able to set more aligned goals for yourself. So you can actually set yourself up for success, right? And be achieving, making some of these changes in your habits and your lifestyle and your behavior in a way that's going to be meaningful for you and actually change your life and transform your life in a really positive and meaningful way. Okay. And I find that people are really getting more into this stuff now, particularly during COVID when there's so much that's outside of our control. What's the one thing that we can come back to and control? It's ourselves, right? So a lot of people are getting lost in a lot more introspection these days because we can't go get lost overseas at the moment. That's my take on it.
That's a good thing. You make it sound positive. You get lost in introspection, working on ourselves. Yeah, amazing.
Well, it's like a really good gift at the moment because, we're just forced to sit and be and sit and reflect. So a lot of people, especially down south, like you've got this gift of time to sit and think about yourself and what's important to you and, life after COVID, what do you want that to look like for you? What adjustments do you want to make? And so the more we sit in reflection and actually think and plan out some of these things, the quicker and easier change and transformation is to achieve, right? So if you think about how you do it with your strength and conditioning, you get your athletes to write down their reps, how they were feeling, and do you actually close the loop and reflect on that and talk to them about that? And
Well, we do it through the app. So every Friday I'll review everything and then I'll report back. We do it through video analysis and notes analysis. Yeah.
So that's what's actually gets you gains.
Week to week.
Yeah. Because if you just act without reflecting, so it's action and the reflection cycle, it actually gets you positive change incrementally.
Action and reflection cycle. It gets us positive change.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else do you want to know? Have you learned enough for today?
No, I reckon you should keep drinking and keep learning.
Awesome.
But so I know this is going to be a very general question, right? So let's say our community and the wider public that's struggling with COVID lockdowns.
Yes.
Because it's stressful. Maybe it's affecting their family or their loved ones. Maybe it's affecting their ability to work and provide for their family. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's affecting their ability to pay their mortgage or bring food to the table, or maybe it's amplifying home stressors or family stressors because of kids or relationship problems, or I've been reading a lot of articles about mental health problems and Lifeline having the highest amount ever recorded.
I watched that last night. Did you watch that last night about Lifeline?
No, I've seen it pop up on Instagram over the weeks, but I'd love to learn what you saw last night. But my question is, what advice or what recommendations do you have for those of us out there that are suffering at the moment and struggling with lockdowns? The uncertainty of when will this end in Australia, and the uncertainty of, how will I come out of this, because financially it's affecting me or it's affecting me in other ways.
Yeah. I think we all have to come back to what's within our control and what's within our circle of influence. Have you heard about the circle of control and the circle of influence?
No.
So again, some circles.
Yeah, so many circles.
Actually, it's in this book. I'll show you. Can I show you one more book?
You can show me
Can you
all
grab
the
that
books.
book?
Okay.
So have you heard of this book before? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
No, I haven't.
You haven't heard of Stephen Covey. So this is like a Bible classic in management, okay?
Okay.
So this is
in management of staff or business or what sort of?
Management, leadership and management, right? So typically it's about personal and professional effectiveness. And it can be, these 7 habits can be applied to all areas of work and life. And when you look at it from a business perspective, the time that most people would pick up a book like this is when they're moving from being an individual contributor or a technical expert, a senior technical expert, to starting to lead and manage or mentor other people. Okay. So, for example, think about when you first move from being a solo EP to kind of looking after or guiding some other EPs. When did that happen in your career?
I wish I picked up a book like that for sure. That happened in 2012. Yeah. Jojo, do you mind turning the AC down? Turn it into Antarctica in here.
Oh. You haven't had enough rakia.
Okay, see, maybe leave the aircon on cold. Yeah, the rakia is hitting you. Cheers, Eleni. The rakia is hitting you different. I'm so conditioned and acclimatized to this that I'm still cold. That's a problem.
Getting the psychologist
might need another bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2012. Eleni,
yeah, so what did you do in 2012?
Well, I opened up a private practice business called Quality of Life Exercise Physiology. And we, together with a business partner of mine, a colleague from uni, we opened up a exercise physiology brand. Yes. And And what happened? Well, we ran a very successful journey. You did? A very successful venture. Yeah. We kicked ass for X amount of years. I think maybe 5+ years.
And you had to change the way you operated?
Yes. I went from being a sole trader. One man band in a commercial gym, a personal trainer, to being responsible for a team of exercise physiologists. Yeah. Yeah. Damn. I wish I had this book and some wisdom.
Actually, I'm going to show you one other thing first.
Okay.
I'm going to show you the actual 7 habits. Look at all those habits.
Okay, more circles, 7 habits, private victory. What do we got here? Habit 1, be proactive. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind. Habit 3, put first things first.
Prioritization.
Okay. Habit 4, think win-win. Ooh. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 6, synergize. Then we got interdependence, independence, private victory, dependence.
Yeah, so it kind of
sharpen the saw.
Sharpen the saw's continuous improvement. 7. So all the habits build on each other.
Okay.
So they're all these principles are about how to be a more personally and professionally effective individual, right? Okay. So how to perform at your best. And so the first principle about is being, what did you call it, about being proactive, right?
Yeah. So what's that book called? 7
Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay.
So look, it talks about habits. What are habits? It's having the knowledge, it's having the skills, and having the desire. So that's what makes an effective habit.
Having the knowledge, skill, and desire.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's what forms habit. But what I wanted to show you was that circle of control and influence, because you asked me, what can people do during COVID, right? You've got to come back to what's within your control and influence and minimize worrying about things that are outside of your control and influence. So that's why it's a perfect time to come back to something like the life plan and do a little life audit for yourself and go, how happy am I in all these different areas of my life? And for example, if stuff is hampering my career that's outside of my control. So if I can't earn the kind of money I want to earn, or I don't know, like I can't fully unleash my passion for traveling right now, it helps redirect you back to the other facets and areas of your life and go, all right, well, you know what? I never really paid that much attention to my personal environment before. I was fully happy just renting a room in a share house, right? Maybe now is a time to use that nest egg that I had saved up for my European sojourn, and kind of actually put that as a deposit on an apartment or put a deposit on a house, right? And maybe I can progress in the area of my personal environment.
Okay.
As opposed to unleashing my passion and my hobby right now. Or, I don't know, maybe I can focus on my mental health, my physical health right now. So, when I go to Europe and I'm going out partying every day and every night.
You look good, feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Exactly. So I think you've got to come back. So you've got to be willing to look at yourself more holistically. So, like typically they say men will define themselves and fuse with their kind of career or their job role title. Yeah. So I think like a lot of people are struggling with that during COVID. Yep. So that's why I always try to actually be like, well, you're way more than just that. Look at all these other roles that you have in your life, right? So even I've seen, say, a lot of the corporates that I work with and leaders that I work with, they've spent a lot more time trying to understand the people that they work with, their colleagues and their employees more holistically. And they found that they've actually become more of a mentor or a coach to people as opposed to just their boss.
Okay.
So you asked me what can people do during COVID? Get more personal with each other. Take the time to get to know the other person in a way that you may have not gotten to know them before. So like, for example, with, corporate workplaces. So you all came to the office before, you interacted in the office, you only know like office version of Svet, right? Whereas now you see Svet dialing into all the Zoom calls and I don't know, you see his dog. Yeah, do you know what I mean? You see his home environment. You see his bottle of rakia there, rakia, and you could start a conversation around that. It opens up a whole other facet and a whole other type of relationship with that person. So I think try to move away from the deficits or what you can't do and move towards some of the things that you can do, some other areas. What are some other strengths? What are some other hidden talents? What are some other hobbies or things that you can do now during COVID? And you can use this time as a gift that we have, right? So then that when things do change, because life will go back to normal, and I think it's going to be crazy. I think we're all going to go back to being super hedonistic. And
super what? Sorry?
Hedonistic.
Okay. Have
you heard that word before?
No.
So hedonism, it's about living in the moment.
Okay.
Seeking pleasure, seeking enjoyment, all the finer things in life, right?
Okay.
And so I think we're going to just go crazy on wanting to do all those fun, pleasurable things once this COVID thing is extinguished.
Like what are you thinking?
Just everything. I think we're going to want to go out partying. I think we're going to go out traveling. I think we're going to want to connect.
Clubs again.
Absolutely.
First time in decades.
Exactly. I think we're all just going to be doing that because we can.
Nuts.
Do you know what I mean? And just like getting back out there again.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? So that is my best piece of advice. Like I don't think there's any point ruminating or focusing on the problem more.
I like that.
So don't be problem focused. Try to move towards being solution focused.
Okay.
Redirect your time, redirect your energy, focus on what's in your control. Focus on what's within your circle of influence. So you can almost plot that out on the concentric circle. Say, what are the things that I'm 100% in control of? So what are you in control of right now? In your gym, what are you in control of at ZAR?
I'm in control of myself. Yes. I'm in control of how I react to certain fires that might pop up.
Exactly.
I'm in control of my time investment and how much time I invest on different things.
Yes. Yeah. Love it. And what's within your circle of influence? So not something that you can fully control, but your effort can still make a difference or an impact on.
I'm in control of what version of myself I bring to my team, what version of myself I bring to my community, and I look to try and continue to evolve and continue to bring the best version of myself to ZAR every single day.
And how does that influence? What kind of influence do you have and who do you influence?
I don't know. I haven't thought of it as influence, but maybe I have some sort of influence on my team and some sort of influence on my community.
Mm-hmm. So
I haven't really stopped to think about how I influence or what influence I have on others.
Awesome. So that can be something else you write down here.
Okay.
Have a think about.
Okay, what should I write down
Have a think about my circle of influence and control.
Circle of influence and control. Put that as number 4?
Yeah, or just your extra bonus thing to focus on.
Extra bonus, okay. I love how you're flicking through that book right now, trying trying to find some more wisdom. Circle of influence on here.
Did you see it before, how the circle of control is more in the circle, whereas the circle of influence is a bit broader?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Circle of concern, circle of concern, circle of influence. Ooh, okay.
See that? So basically what's within your control should be your circle of concern, where you focus your time and energy. What's within your circle of influence, so you're not fully in control of it, but you still have some ability to impact it. And then you should like not expend any energy on things that are outside of your control. So things are like the lockdown. Like we're like legitimately not in control of all that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Aren't we?
Well, we can't impact it.
Zero impact?
Pretty much.
Do you reckon? I don't know.
Can we change whether we're locked down or not? Apart from like a full-on civil movement of unrest and protesting. Like you as one person, like me as one person, what can I do? If Scott Morrison wants to keep us in lockdown.
You should have a chat with Scott Morrison. I don't know.
Oh, he'll listen to me. Do you think? I'll get him to write his postcard.
This is a circle.
Yeah.
this is a postcard.
But that's what they're trying to do. Like, sorry to interrupt. That's
okay.
What they're trying to do. They're trying to put a circle of. They're trying to control the uncontrollable, and that's what's frustrating a lot of people.
Okay, they're trying to control the uncontrollable, like a pandemic or a virus.
Yeah.
That's a very good thought.
Mm. So, but we can't.
That is frustrating a lot of people. I think it's frustrating to our average Australian. Yeah, it's definitely frustrating me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when we talk about our level of happiness and our level of energy and where we put our time, if you want to be the most effective version or be the most productive version of yourself, science says you're not actually that productive, so spend your time thinking and getting frustrated about that stuff.
Yes. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, it is, because we can't do anything. You know how some people just say they've switched off from watching the news because they're like sick of the doom and gloom? They just like stay in their own little kind of bubble because it helps them stay positive, it helps them stay focused, it helps them stay productive.
Yeah.
So
do you watch the news?
I do. I keep abreast of the news, but if I feel my mood changing or if I feel myself getting anxious or feeling crap, then as long as it's not directly affecting me, I just try to refocus on something else for the moment, because I'm like, there's no point stressing about it. Like, I legitimately can't change this fact. So what's another area of my life where I can pour my energy into, or my frustration, and how can I use that as a positive ball of energy to kind of help score some goals, right? So, for example, in my practice, I work in a lot of like corporate, like learning and development training, right? So when COVID hit, a lot of that stuff was face-to-face. A lot of it was flying around to different states, and all of that stuff went on hold. All of it stopped for a while until we went on to online. But hey, what did it unlock? It unlocked the opportunity for for me to do more work with one-on-one individuals, right? That I wouldn't have had time to give that one-on-one time to had I have been focusing all my effort corporately.
Okay.
It's also given me now the opportunity to work remotely with customers in other states and be more accessible to them, whereas previously they would have had to pay for my flights, they would have had to pay for my accommodation, because it wouldn't have been acceptable to their employees for me to work with them via Zoom, whereas now it is. Okay. It's also unlocked opportunities for me to work with companies here locally. Maybe they have head offices in other states and they had preferred suppliers or arrangements with other consultants in other states, and they're like, no, we want Eleni because she's local and she knows us and she can actually come to our premises on site and we can actually do some face-to-face training here, because fortunately for the moment in Queensland, we're not in a lockdown situation. So I've tried to find the silver lining, and I've tried, the famous word, the pivot, but pivoting where you can pivot, like that's all we can do. So, in terms of being innovative, in terms of just being strategic and being nimble, being adaptable, we've never had a better opportunity than in this volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous environment that we find ourselves in. So if you reframe it, it's actually like one of the toughest challenges for us as individuals and as business owners. Like,
I think so.
You were a fairly new business as well when all of this stuff hit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the toughest maybe, I don't know, in Australian history, one of the toughest things that we've experienced as a society, aside from, early settlement and everything that went on with our native population.
Certainly a once in a lifetime, once in a lifetime event that we'll be telling our kids about and our grandkids.
We'll probably be sipping rakia in 20 years' time. Going to remember when we lived through COVID?
I know, 2020, nice. If we're lucky, hey.
If we're lucky,
hopefully we can.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, Eleni.
Thank you, Svet.
Thank you.
Where are you going to put your postcard?
I don't know. Maybe in my car.
Yeah.
Like on the, the thing. So
Love
every time I drop the thing,
Love
I don't know. I'll figure it out, but I'll hold on to it.
Excellent. Can I take a photo of you on your phone with this? Hold this up.
Damn. Okay. Let's go.
Can I have your phone? Someone's phone?
Okay. I can do it on my phone.
We do it on your phone.
Okay. Am I going to be famous?
We can make you famous.
I should have got a haircut.
Smile.
Hey.
There we go.
Feel free to send it to yourself straight away because I'll probably forget.
Can you send it to me?
Yeah, I can do that. Just do that while we're on air real quick. Just a quick
This is the Catherian flower that only grows in Kithera, so you know.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's always in bloom. So once you make a change, it's always there. You've always been a positive evolution of yourself. Yeah, so it grows on like the mountains and it's really high up, so it's really hard for people to go and pick and collect.
It's yellow and it grows on the mountains?
Yeah.
Is that water?
Yeah, it's water. Okay. So that's on the like if you're looking down, that's on the white kind of, because it's from the salt. White turns white here. Okay. And so they scale up there and they cut it and then they sell it and it stays yellow all year round.
What? Even after it's cut?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
So your change, you know how you talked about
What's
the baseline?
What's the flower called?
Sempraviva.
Sempraviva.
Yeah, so it's Italian because it was originally for quite some many years like a Venetian colony.
Okay.
Yeah, so from Italy. So there's a lot of Italian words.
Fascinating.
On that. Yeah.
Cool. You know another topic that I've prepared for us. Not that I'm out there preparing topics for this, but it's one thing that I work on a lot. Is from a psychology point of view, and maybe it's more of a review of what we've discussed so far, but I definitely do want to ask you is, for our members that are struggling to get to the gym because maybe they're not prioritizing it, I don't know what the reason is. We've talked about all the different excuses that exist. What's your recommendation or your tips and tricks or what you're detecting works that we can share with the community to help them reprioritize their health, reprioritize their wellness, and get to the gym?
Yeah. So practical things.
And we've all experienced it. I've experienced it with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, even though it's part of my self-care. Now that we've established it's part of my self-care or it's part of something that I enjoy, for a long time, especially early days COVID, I struggled to get to the academy and practice. I know with your training, there's been weeks where you've struggled to get to the gym, and I think, what can I do to help to get Eleni into the gym? So what can we discuss or what can you share that might make a difference and help somebody start their exercise journey?
I think scheduling and prioritization is really important. Right? So something that I love Mitch does when I come to, say, Monday Pilates, sometimes Monday lunchtime Pilates, he asks me, Eleni, what days are you training this week?
Okay.
So, and it's really good because I come in on Monday and I haven't thought about it.
Okay.
I'm still high
it's
off
Monday.
The weekend.
Yeah, you're barely just scraping through.
Exactly.
You're probably here now that I know that you're here because you're having a big week and you're trying to recharge.
Exactly. And then I'm like, oh yeah, and it makes me think about it, and it actually makes me, he goes, oh, how many times are you going to come to the gym this weekend? Well, 3 times. He goes, okay, when are you coming? What days will I see you here? So he actually nuts it down to a specific time and date, and he gets me to commit to that time. So he goes, all right, so you're going to come tomorrow, Tuesday lunchtime, and then you're going to come Thursday lunchtime.
Okay, I really like that.
And if you can't come to one of those days, what's your backup time and date that you're going to come to?
Okay.
And then you actually put that in your diary like an appointment, like any other appointment or meeting that you have in your diary. You schedule that green time in and you keep boundaries. If a client says, I can only meet on Thursday lunchtime, and you're like, well, far out, like that's my gym time. Like, no, sorry, I'm not available.
I really like that. It's an important thing in priorities, because we're then prioritizing our health and our wellness over that business opportunity or that work task.
And you know what? I'm not being an asshole to the customer, because they need to get the best version of Eleni. They need their A+ psychologist that's in the moment, that's attentive to them, that's giving them my best version so I can help them the best, right? So I need to make sure that I'm in the right headspace for them. And if I'm in my chronic orange, if I'm like frustrated, I'm like jittery high on my coffee because I've had too much coffee to keep with all my appointments, like, mate, I'm not the best version of me for them, and they're not getting their money's worth. So I think about it like that. Do you know what I mean?
I see it. You're actually doing them a disservice if you accept to book them into your green zone. Because you're delivering a different version of Eleni.
That's it. Win-win. And I've got to know how to, so you asked with gym, how do you get yourself to the gym? So I think having good prioritization, having a backup plan if something goes wrong, or when you fall off the wagon, and I see you talking about this a lot, getting back on track ASAP. Like, don't be like, I've had a bad week, so don't write off the rest of the week. So a lot of people with their food, they can be like this as well. If they have a blowout meal, I don't know, at lunchtime, they write off the rest of the day.
That's it.
Yeah, don't write off the rest of the day.
So I'm done for the rest of the day.
Don't write off the rest of the day. Just feel like, oh, well, I ate crap then. Let me get back on it, straight away. The quicker you can, get yourself out and change it around, the better. Because as you know, if you let more time pass, that's where you start feeling less empowered and less able to make a positive change for yourself. So the biggest thing that we can do is help short circuit that for people, and help, like that day I came to see you, you're like, come on now, don't go up to Pilates, go to strength and conditioning.
Yes.
And I just did it, and I'd broken my rut, and I'd done a strength class. Just so like good. That. Because I just stayed downstairs instead of walking up the stairs. And I was like, no, I can do it.
Yes.
So just doing what you can to help people make those shifts in habits.
Okay.
Anything else you can think of?
Shifts in habits. No, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm getting scheduling.
Yeah.
Having a backup plan. If you stuff up, don't beat yourself up over it. And shift in habits.
Yeah. So self-correct as quickly as you can.
Self-correct. So you wanted to get it done on Monday, you didn't. You wanted to get it done on Tuesday, you did. You missed Wednesday. Okay, you've still got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to get something in.
That's it.
Don't just write off the rest of the week.
Yeah.
This is a non-exercise week.
Or new day, new opportunity, right? So forget about all the times when you didn't do it. Draw a line in the sand. This is your chance. Or if you really can't come to the gym, what's a positive alternative that you can do? As you say to me sometimes, can you go for a walk? Can you even do 20 minutes of stretching or the roller at home? Anything is better than nothing, right? So at the worst case scenario, pick an alternative for yourself. And, come back. So goal setting is awesome. We can all set goals. The hard thing is to how do we stick to goals, and how do we get back on track when we are not on target for our goals, right?
Yeah, or how do we get back on track when we're in pain, or when we feel like we don't have time, or when family stuff is out of control, or when work stuff is out of control?
Because again, that's a time when you need to be the best version of yourself, when you're under the most pressure. That's when it becomes most important to love yourself and engage in those self-care activities, right? Because what's ironic is that when we're stressed out or when we're overwhelmed, our empathy and our care factor really drops off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And ironically, that's a time when we need to actually bring that perspective of others, listen to them, care for them, hear them, be patient with them. That's when we need that connection and that relationship the most, right? So when we don't go to Jiu Jitsu and when we don't go walk shady at Newstead, along the river in between our sessions, you can't bring that best version of Svet. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're not just doing that for you, you're doing that for everyone here. And you're doing that to create the right vibe and mood at the gym, because it all starts and ends with you.
Fascinating. Thank you, Eleni.
My pleasure.
Much appreciated. I'm going to take this opportunity to end our podcast.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you'd like to chat about?
No, I really enjoyed chatting today, Svet. Thank you.
Thank you so much for dropping in.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.